following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Mike Broderick, and I have been a resident of Nashua for 28 years. The Right to Know Public Access Show is aimed at providing knowledge of current events, policies, and the decision-making process that affects the lives of the citizens of Nashua. My mission is to help citizens understand city politics so that they may improve their lives in the city where they live. I wish to inform, educate, and enlighten the citizens of Nashua because they have the right to know. Our show tonight, a two-part show. Our second part of the show will be Alderman Moriarty and Commissioner Tracy Pappas. Right now, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ed Lecius, who is, your resume is tremendous, and there's no word really to describe what you've done for the city, but tonight we're going to talk about the stroll.
Well, Michael, a pleasure to be here and catch up with you again. I'm just doing what my father told me to do, which is if you were going to live here and be successful, you got to be willing to give something back, and that's what I've tried to do and what I've tried to live by. And I cannot believe that we are at the 20th holiday stroll.
I was going to ask you how long it's been, 20 years.
This is the 20th, and you know, a funny thing happened on the way to a Lion's Pancake Breakfast. A gentleman who was employed by the city by the name of Alan Minoyan actually saw the poster at City Hall for the breakfast, and contacted me because I was listed as one of the contacts and said, do you know how I get a hold of your Santa Claus? And we started a conversation. And the first stroll, a couple thousand people were here. It was kind of put together very quickly, couple of weeks. And there were no set plans. There were a few entertainments, a few shops open, and they got to Library Hill, they lit the tree, everybody disappeared, and Santa was left standing there.
So you didn't get to deliver your presents.
Didn't have to deliver presents. Santa stood there from 6 p.m. till about 10:15 and talked to all the children. And then as time has gone on, it got fine-tuned. The committee has expanded, and it is a great partnership between the Great American Downtown, of which Mayor Lozo was one of the founders, and now she's on the other side as the partner with us as mayor of the city. And it's the city of Nashua with the Great American Downtown and volunteers, businesses who put this on. It has become the #1 event, not only in New Hampshire, but in Nashua, Nashua being the #1 city.
That's right. Well, there were 30,000 people. Do you expect the same amount of people this year?
We expect more.
More, really?
We expect more. And being the 20th, we have a couple of new twists to it. There'll be a new look to the downtown with the new light poles and the new sidewalks. There'll be a couple of other things that I'm not going to mention,
Okay.
see if folks notice them. Santa traditionally has arrived in an antique fire engine. This year he's going to be coming in an antique truck.
No reindeer, huh?
No reindeer. They're resting up for the big trip.
Big day, okay.
Two of our prominent business families in Nashua, the Bellevances, from Bellevance Beverage,
Yes.
and the Laws from Law Motor Freight, are providing us with their antique trucks.
Nice.
One will be carrying Santa and the period dressed couple that have traditionally led the parade the last few years, the stroll. And in the second truck, the mayor will be there, along with Miss New Hampshire, Samantha Russo from Nashua, Miss Gate City, and Miss Sauhegan Valley. So we've added a little there, and Miss New Hampshire, Samantha Russo, will be singing following the tree lighting. She'll sing a couple of songs. But the stroll will be led by our own Nashua Spartans, Drum and Bugle Corps.
Very good.
They will lead. There's a baton twirling group that will follow them. and we'll start the traditional stroll up Main Street from City Hall and stop at Library Hill. Thursday, the 14th, the official city tree from the Elliott family, South Main, just off of South Main Street, has been put in place thanks to the efforts of Park Recreation. And it's a community event, and it's a partnership with the city and GAD. We couldn't do it without the city's support. And, you know, it goes back, Mayor Wagner, Mayor Davidson, Mayor Streeter, now Mayor Lozo. Department of Public Works is great part of this effort. Nashua Transit, Mark Sousa.
Yes.
Tom Galligarni from Economic Development. Tom does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't even realize. Police, fire department are involved. AMR ambulance, they're involved with us. Justin Cates, the emergency management director, and now some of his folks who've been trained as CERT team members, Citizens Emergency Response Team. They're going to be assisting, and they'll be designated by their vest, and they're going to be helping out all around the downtown area, in addition to the police and our staff, Great American Downtown. Couldn't do it without Rebecca and Allie. It's a two-person office, but you know they just do great things. And if it wasn't for the trustees of the Hunt Building, Santa wouldn't have a place to meet the children. Since that first event,
probably,
and it's a little nicer inside, yes. And they will have Santa's room all appropriately decorated, and you know, it's going to be great. And there's a couple of new venues this year. As a result of the 20th, the Arena Sports Bar is going to have entertainment there, beginning at 5:45, and so that they're new to it this year.
You keep bringing in more businesses and commercial. It's really a safe event too, a nice thing for
it
families
is,
to come
and
in.
it's a family event.
Right.
And we're asking too, because it is a family event, we're asking the pet owners, especially the dog owners, to please leave your pet at home.
Yes.
Last year there were a couple of incidents where larger dogs went after smaller ones, or heaven forbid that they go after a child. So we're asking, in the interest of keeping it a safe family event, that pet owners leave their pets home. It's not good for their pets. The noise, the excitement, the flashing lights from some of the displays, the bands that are performing on the live stage, those tend to intimidate and frighten the animals. So please leave them home.
Good to know.
And have a good time by everybody. Another new venue this year, the St. Pat's Center on Main Street, and St. Pat's Church is going to be having something.
Nice.
And as people await the procession, if you're down in the Railroad Square area, in the area of the Hunt Building,
Yes.
you're going to hear a familiar sound. The chimes have been repaired, and they'll be chiming appropriate seasonal music until the Spartans arrive with Santa and the special guests.
Small children are going to love that. They probably haven't heard them before, so it'll be really nice, you know. And you mentioned entertainment. And where is the entertainment going to be located?
The entertainment's going to be all over the downtown, Michael, and so I'm not missing anything. I'm going to use my little cheat sheet here. Triangle Credit Union at 110 Main Street are the sponsors of the stage there, and the entertainment there starts at 5:45. The first group will be Friday after 5. They're a funk rock metal band. And at 7:10, Ryan Brooks Kelly, a contemporary country artist, will be performing.
Which one are you singing?
Well, that's going to be a surprise. And then at 8:35, Sitting Ducks, which is a blues rock band, will perform.
Very nice.
30 Temple Street, the big building up the top of Temple Street.
Yes.
The Bishop Girton First Robotics Team will be putting on demonstrations up there. 80 Main Street, the Floods, which is a folk rock group, will be performing all evening at that venue. 86 West Pearl Street at 7:10, the Sugar Pills, which is a garage band, will be performing. As I said, Arena, the sports bar at 53 High Street, new to us this year. At 5:45, the Bedford Big Band, a 20-piece jazz and swing band, will be performing. And then at 8:35, the Diamond Edge Rock and 80s Pop Band will be performing. Wow. At Ancient Moon at 95 West Pearl Street, Starting at 5:45, Acoustic Breezes will be performing. And then Abishon Hardware will have Naughty or Nice starting at 5:45, and that's an acoustic folk band. Beckonings outside will have a singer-songwriter with pop, rock, and folk music, Sarah Noyovitz. And at Bicentennial Park, a very popular attraction that we've had for several years now, the New Hampshire Astronomical Society will be there for stargazing and a telescope demonstration. So hopefully it'll be a clear night
We just,
for that.
I can't say we're going to get my grandson for Christmas, but he will probably take him over there.
Nice. At the Church of the Good Shepherd, the world-famous Good Shepherd bell ringers will be performing at 5:45, and then there'll be another folk fusion acoustic band at 7:10, and the bluegrass band, the Deep Hole Road, will perform there at 8:35. At City Hall, as has been the case for almost all 20 of these, we have the icebreakers, ice carvings.
Yes.
And this year's theme is going to be the Polar Express.
Oh.
And there's also going to be a interactive ice carving that if it all comes to pass and the weather cooperates, folks will be able to kind of look through and get their pictures, take pictures with
Beautiful.
it. So that's always a popular thing. In the Rotunda, the Rhythm of New Hampshire Show Chorus will be performing at 5:45, and then it will be a profile chorus performing from 7:10 till 9:45. The Court Street Theater, the Peacock Players will be up first. The Northern Ballet Theater will follow them, and the Y Dance in Motion group will follow them. The top of Library Hill, and by the way, Main Street will be closed from Library Hill to West Hollis Street beginning at 3 p.m.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. Good.
The First Church, the Granite Statements Barbershop Group will be kicking off at 5:45. The New England Voices in Harmony will follow them, and it'll wrap up with Jazz First, which is a jazz trio with Pamela Smith as a vocalist. At Fodes on Clinton Street, the Transistors, which is a 60 rock group, will lead things off. Magafuna, a dance group, will follow, and Flatliners Blues, a blues rock band, will end the night. In front of Fresh at 178 Main Street, the Gate City Squad, which is a hip-hop band, will perform from 5:45 till little after 8. Gentle Dental, there will be a contemporary jazz blues ensemble, and then Minor Seconds, another jazz-themed holiday tune group, will perform to close the evening. Grace Fellowship Church will have the Main Street Band and Saving Grace Dance Ensemble, and they will go till about 7:15, and that'll be followed till closing by the Compact Big Band, which is very popular in this area. Of course, the Hunt Building, right after the tree lighting, Santa will be holding court from the end of the tree lighting till about 8:15. At the Main Street United Methodist Church, their choir will perform at 5:45 till 6:45. They'll be followed by the Merrimack Valley Flute Choir, and Cow Hampshire Folk Music will conclude the program there. At Icabera Flowers, George Parker, who performed Japanese koto all evening for them. And let's see, Martha's Exchange upstairs, Homes for the Holiday, a gingerbread house contest will be displayed on the upstairs of Martha's. And of course, weather permitting, they'll be out on the sidewalk along with several of the other downtown venues.
I was going to ask you about that also.
The Nashua Bank front steps will have the North Main Music Guitar Army playing popular music there. At the Public Library, this is another great place to be on Court Street. Steve Blunt will be doing seasonal songs for kids and families at 5:45, followed by educational entertainment by Mark Booty, who is an illusionist.
Oh.
So that should be fun.
Yes.
In the children's room, Make It Labs, which is a science group, will be doing some 3D printing of ornaments that folks will be able to take advantage of. In the music art wing, the media wing at the library, the Harmonica Saints, a folk Christmas song group, will perform at 5:45, and that'll be followed at 7:10 by the Fiddling Thompsons, which is a folk group. And in the theater area at the library, Stephanie Beach Magic, a holiday stage magic show, will start things, and then a ukulele band will follow that. At the NBT Bank, a new location and a new group with us this year, DJ Jack Lees will be providing holiday music. NBT is at 221 Main Street. Up on Temple Street at Old Amsterdam Bar and Lounge, they'll have Potsy, which is a hard rock group, leading off. That'll be followed by the Joni Earthquake Band. And Bell Wire will close things out for them. At the Santander Bank parking lot, back for the second year, we will have our annual Rail Jam, thanks to the folks at Zimmerman Ski Boards and More. It's a ski and snowboard competition. And they'll have 2 rails, jumps that will be built that day. Thanks to the Conway Arena and Public Works, we'll be trucking over some ice shavings to put the snow in. And it was a huge success last year, and we're very happy to have Zimmerman's back with us.
That's probably for people under 50, I would think.
That's for everybody. Even you could go, Michael.
I don't think so.
Yeah. At Pompanusick Mills, the Queen City Soul Group will be performing all evening. At the St. Patrick's Church, a new venue this year, we will have the St. Patrick's Organist and Choir performing songs for the holiday. Down on West Pearl Street at Susie's Salon, Just Harry, a solo rockabilly doo-wop group, will be performing. TD Bank, 191 Main Street, the Dan Searle Group, which is a jazz, funk, and fusion group. The Tiger's Den at 238 Main will be a martial arts demonstration. The studio will be open. The Unitarian Universalist Church in Lowell Street in the sanctuary area. The New Englanders, a country folk bluegrass group, will start things off. And Night Shot, a rock group, will close it out from 8:35 till 9:45. And in their auditorium, they'll have dramatic arts, upstage dramatic arts, which are skits and creative motivational program with audience participation. And then the Granite State Conjures Stage Magic will follow. And then we'll wrap up with the Stagecoach Women's Chorus. Wow. And our last venue will be other demonstrations, performances around the downtown. A new one this year, we're going to have a lumberjack demonstration. And they will be doing the cutting of logs, and that will be interesting. Tokyo Joe's will have a Panther demo by their team. Make It Labs will also be located down on Main and Park Street with some other demonstrations for science-related things. The Nashua Karate Club and the Zumba Club of New Hampshire will be there. So something really, for everybody.
Your staff, it'd be hard to choose where to go.
Well, we got a great committee. A number of volunteers that have been meeting once a month up until the end of October, and now every month. Every Thursday morning we meet and go over things, and it's all come together. Right. We've got a beautiful billboard out on the Everett Turnpike, thanks to the folks at Sunnyside Acura. And again, city agencies behind the scenes, out front. We have the trucks that are going to do the procession. The crowds will have lighted candles this year. Nice. Those will be passed out. We ran into a little hiccup with the printing of the programs, but we want to thank Greg Pohl and the folks at the Telegraph. They stepped up and came to the rescue. And actually, it's actually going to be better because the program's going to be a little bigger than they normally are because of the printing press that they're going to use. But they stepped in at the 11th hour,
so
and
they'll have this information on the streets. Is that where they can get together with everything's going on?
There's going to be a couple of information booths downtown, and you can go to the Great American Downtown website or the Go Nashua website. And the other thing, there's going to be a couple of kiosks in the downtown area and on the Go Nashua site thanks to Angelo and Pam Andruskevich in the GIS department, in the assessor's office at City Hall. There's going to be an interactive map. So you can pull that map up, and you can go to a site. You go to, say, Martha's.
Yes.
And you touch it, and you can open up a window, and it'll tell you what's there and what time it's taking place.
Wow.
So again,
Incredible.
we're moving along, and we thank them. And of course, once the procession gets to Library Hill, there'll be a little ceremony thanking the sponsors, the groups performing, the volunteers, and the Mayor Loza will speak, and then the Mayor and Santa will do a countdown with everybody. And the Mayor will actually have a switch to throw from the staging to ensure that those lights go on when we get down there. And right after that, Samantha Russo, our Miss New Hampshire from Nashua, will sing a couple of tunes. Santa Claus is coming to town on the Holy Night, and if you have not heard Sam sing, you're in for a treat. In fact, she won an award at the Miss America pageant in the talent competition. She is a very talented young woman, and we're very happy to have her. And after that, while Santa gets ready to go into the castle and folks get ready to stroll, before they leave, the Spartans will play a couple of Christmas tunes, and then they'll go to their staging area and head off. And it goes till 10 o'clock at night. It's going to be a great evening.
Yes, it is. I just want to ask you about the spirit of giving.
Yes, there are going to be a number of volunteer groups that will be set up in the City Hall, across from City Hall area, and there are some that will be selling items to assist their cause, and others will be looking for donations. I know one group will be looking to collect hats, mittens, gloves, and what have you. And those will all be listed. There'll be a story coming out in next week's Telegraph on the downtown page with the specifics of that. And people are encouraged to do what they can. And the stores are excited.
Yes.
We have over 20 of the downtown businesses that are going to be taking part in a window decorating contest. Yeah. And there's going to be a little red Santa's hat that will be located in, I think, 7 or 8 or 9 of the stores. And if you fill out and tell us where it is, you go into a drawing, and there'll be a gift basket with gift cards from a number of the downtown merchants. I believe they said the value would be several $100s. Oh,
very nice.
So the stores
really
are getting into that, and some of them have started already, preparing. And of course, this is just to show off our great downtown that we have here in Nashua. And
you should be commended for everything you do.
Well,
it's for 20 years, you know.
It's actually been exciting to be involved for 20 years, and this year, you know, they gave me the honor of being the chairman, so I get a little more involved in the nuts and bolts of it, and it truly is amazing.
Well, you don't have any more gray here.
How a group of people who get together just for this event. Yep. They come from all walks of life. There are homemakers. There are business leaders. City officials, and it just kind of all comes together. That Saturday, the 30th, one of the challenges this year, no more meters. And we used to bag the meters, letting folks know they have to be out of there by 3 o'clock. But there's free parking in downtown that day, and there will be signs put up. We would appreciate it if folks have their cars off of Main Street by 3 p.m. so that the street will be then closed down. And we need to get, the food vendors need to be set up so they can be inspected by the health department, and we have to do other logistical things to prepare it for the stroll, and I'm anticipating perhaps the largest crowd ever.
Beautiful. Well, before we go, I just on a separate note, I just wanted to mention something about Santa in the Park, and I know that you have a lot to do with that, and Mrs. Imelda Murphy decorates the gazebo. Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
That is going to be on Sunday, December the 8th, from, I believe, 12 to 2.
Okay.
And again, Mrs. Murphy and her family and a number of the North End residents, they came up with this idea for parents who can't afford to go and have a picture taken at the malls because of the expense.
Right.
Their kid would never have an opportunity to have their picture taken. They worked with Tom Duane and Nick Caggiano at Park Rec. And again, the city stepping in, being a partner, collaborating. And it's been great. Yeah. The kids get to have a picture with Santa. And between all of those involved, they all leave with a gift, something. And it really is interesting. Between the stroll, and I know that Santa does kind of an unscientific poll as to where folks are from. And a lot of them are coming from the Amherst, Milford, Peterborough, Manchester, Concord, Exeter, Epping, Derry, Londonderry, Lowell, Kingsborough, Dunstable, and I know he was telling me that there has been one child that for the last 8 or 9 years has been here from St. Johnsbury, Vermont.
Wow, that'd be
Obviously
incredible.
doing visiting
What a nice
family
thing
for the
city
holiday.
to do, and Mrs. Murphy and Santa.
And this other, this thing at Greeley Park is a great thing, and again,
Okay.
a couple of people coming together
Absolutely.
with an idea and carrying the ball and giving back.
Giving
Yep.
back. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time, Mr. Lecius, and I appreciate you coming here this evening. It's my honor to have you here this evening, and I want to thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man. And we'll be right back.
No busier than you have, Mike.
I don't know about that, but we'll be right back with Alderman Moriarty and Commissioner Tracy Pappas. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I would like to introduce my two guests. First of all, Alderman Dan Moriarty and Commissioner Tracy Pappas. Thank you for coming this evening, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Alderman Moriarty, what was it like, what issues were you faced with when you decided to go from a ward alderman to an alderman at large? What were your concerns?
Well, I had a lot of ground to make up on name recognition citywide. I was fairly confident that I would get a decent amount of the voters of people who watch Channel 16 and the people who read the Telegraph regularly, the city politics section, the Inside Nashua. But that's only 1,000 people on Channel 16 and a number on the Telegraph. And I knew there were going to be 8,000 people turning out, so I had a lot of ground to make up.
And you visited a lot of wards to make that happen, is that correct?
Yes, I campaigned in every ward, and we walked pretty close to every street in Nashua and rang the doorbell of close to every voter who showed up.
So your triathlon history really helped you in that area, is that true?
Many hours, patience and determination, absolutely.
Good.
I didn't do it all myself,
Yes.
that's
Well,
for sure.
It's always about team, isn't it?
Yes,
It's
it
always
is.
about team.
Yeah.
Commissioner Pappas, there's a new face on the board this year. Congratulations on your election.
Thank
and do you know Mr. Bergeron?
I don't.
You don't.
I heard that there were a lot of people running. Some people I knew were not crazy about what I was doing. And I asked, I thought, I always think change is a good thing. And I had asked about Mr. Bergeron from both sides of the political aisle, Republican, Democrat. I heard nothing but very positive things about him.
That's good.
And I reached out to him, and I wished him the best of luck before the end of the election. I said, no hard feelings. If, whatever happens, I'll be able to touch base with you and tell you what I've learned on the board. And I'm happy he won. I have no, I've always liked Commissioner Gagnon, but I think that change is not always a bad thing.
Right.
And I absolutely welcome Commissioner Bergeron.
Well, I think you should be thankful because voters put you back in office because apparently you're doing a great job. There are a lot of changes on the board, the Alderman board this year. What direction you see the board going in, Alderman?
Well, the biggest, most obvious one is there's a high probability there'll be a new board president in January.
Yeah. Now, are you concerned about the recount that's going to be happening Monday for the two wards, or do you feel?
I'm always concerned about something like that.
Yeah.
It's unlikely. There is a this finite chance that that one of them will get overturned,
Right.
and so I've been sort of just being patient.
Right. It'll be interesting to see how the city goes. Do you, Mr. Pappas, you have always been the lone voice in differing views on the board. I've attended a few of the board meetings, and are you hopeful that maybe with the change in commissioners here, that there may be more support for the minority point of view?
I can certainly always hope for that. The feeling was a little bit different when the late Commissioner Dyer was still there, even though it was often a 2 to 3 vote. Commissioner Dyer and I sometimes voted together, sometimes we didn't. But it was a different feeling, and I hope that Commissioner Bergeron will go ahead and have just be that third person there. I've heard a lot of concerns that the Board of Public Works is too strong of a board, particularly with a very strong mayor in charge of it. So I'm really hoping that that extra voice will help, and I'm hoping that the change for the Board of Aldermen will help. I know one of the recounts is in Ward 3, and it was Mr. Schoeneman, who I actually probably worked harder for his campaign than I did for mine. We don't belong to the same political party. But I asked him a couple of questions, and I think that he's not going to take, he's going to discuss public business in public, and he's going to be represented for Ward 3, and I think that that's something that's been drastically lacking in Ward 3, and I absolutely hope that that stands, and I'd rather be, he's 6 up right now, so I'd rather be in the position of him being 6 up than him being 6 down, so I'm hoping, I probably will attend the recount, and I hope that Ward 3, I think he'll be a wonderful, wonderful voice for the people in Ward 3.
Well, one of the things that connects is going to be connecting the Board of Public Works and the Board of Aldermen is the Legacy Park issue. And if the board proceeds to vote to put that in Greeley Park, as Alderman Presley once said, it has to go before the Board of Aldermen. Do you, there was quite a turnout, at the DPW meeting, that even when they talked about it. Do you, Alderman Moriarty, how do you feel about the Legacy Park issue? Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar with it, yes.
Yeah, are you in favor of
I'm not in favor of being in Greeley Park at all. I was at the Infrastructure Committee. I'm on the Infrastructure Committee, and I was at that meeting when it was sprung upon us in the form of completed plans, as this is what is going to happen. And several of us were surprised that it had gotten to that level of maturity, that the plans had gotten to that level of maturity without prior approval of going in the park. One would think that the plans are not general as opposed to with regards to where the park would be. They had to, if the plans were a general playground, it could have been in Ward 9, which is where I want to have it. It could have been Ward 8, could have been anywhere in the city. That's one thing. But the fact that the plans of the park were specific to that location, and forgetting that maybe it was an oversight, forgetting that to put it in that location needed approval, caught a few of us off guard.
Well, it should be interesting to see what happens. Do you know when is it coming up for a vote before the new commissioners are sworn in?
Well, first off, we already voted on it, which it was a 4-1 vote. Not surprised. I voted against it, and December 2nd, the mayor is going to have her discussion regarding Legacy Playground. She was initially going to have the discussion last night at the same time infrastructure was meeting. And I know Alderman Moriarty was out of town that night, but someone had given a history of Greeley Park that night, so I begged and pleaded and sent emails, and so fortunately the meeting was moved to December 2nd. The mayor's she's gonna have her discussion. She will be, even though I feel very strongly that this issue should be in front of the Board of Aldermen, not in front of anything to do with Public Works. But as I said, I've been kind of the lone voice. However, I'm very fortunate. Last night there was a Beezer meeting, which a lot of the people, it's a contaminated land near the park, which part of the park is contaminated by the Beezer site. And Mrs. Murphy a local neighbor who's a historian had done it. She's very colorful. She's got a very heavy Irish brogue. She's a delightful lady. But she had her presentation in front of the infrastructure committee meeting. So as I said, I sent emails, and we were able to switch it. So the mayor's discussion about the Legacy Playground will be December 2nd, Monday. Might be news to you.
I got a few of the emails.
It's okay. It's the third.
And Alderman Dodges emailed, I'm on his list, and he emailed, I signed up to be notified when that was, and he told he was going to try to move it from the 18th. So
Right, and it is someone who represents the whole city who.
Not yet.
Well, once.
Well, I
Alderman
do
Moriarty.
represent the whole city. I have that voting authority, certainly.
Right,
But I'm biased towards Ward 9. Currently by charter. But
Correct. But right now, there are supposed to be 3 sites that are available. And Cleveland Street, which is the Labine Park, not Labine at Social.
Right.
That's an area that's really underserved by the city. Sergeant's Park, I think, would be great as a resident of Ward 3, but is a public official who's serving the city at large. I would like to be able to hit wards that aren't served, whether it's your former ward, well, it's obviously your ward now, or whether it's Cleveland Street. I think that people that underserved by the parks, that's where we should be putting this stuff.
Well, we had talked about that some time ago, and you had brought it up, and of course it got shut down. The idea of, it was a long time ago, you said, hey, Dan, there's this park that we were thinking of putting up, and I go, a playground. And I go, I would love to have it in Ward 9 because there's St. Andrew's Park that's been left unmaintained for a long time. And I had several ideas. One of them, I circulated around the neighborhood, and there were a couple people that they didn't like my idea, so I dropped it. And this sounded perfect. We have a lot of acreage down there, surprisingly.
It is.
And that didn't make it on the.
It didn't
make it on the list.
Yeah.
it was one of the top. It was not one of the top 3.
It was not one of the top selections.
3,
No,
suggestion sites.
it wasn't. But I really feel like the other 2 parks are really not being considered. I feel like it
Other
was
2
just
locations.
going through the motion. Correct. Yeah. The other 2 locations, it's almost like going through the motions. And, Sergeant's Park, it would be great. The reason, I certainly would embrace it, but we have money set aside to fix that up. And I just think that in Cleveland Street, that's a ward that's really underserved. And I would embrace it. They want a location. Greeley Park is already a location, and I would really like to see it in an area that really is underserved by our Park and Rec.
There appears to be a bit of a mix, I don't know what the proper term here, a confusion on the issues. Whether the idea of having a park, a playground of this type is a great idea.
Absolutely.
And of course, I'm going partly from what I'd read and the meeting that I missed yesterday because I was in Maryland on business. But the proponents of the playground, most of the comments that had been stated are all valid and are completely intact, even if the location is somewhere else. It still has all the validity of that type of a playground, the people who volunteered all the time, the people who went through that leadership program. That all makes sense. It doesn't have to be in Greeley Park for all that to come to fruition.
Plus, there's no cost to the taxpayers.
There's still no cost to the taxpayers, no matter where it is. All the benefits that have been highlighted for the playground are all maintained, can all be realized, even if it's somewhere else.
The one thing I would like to add to Alderman elect Moriarty's statement is you pay attention to the bottom line. Okay, so we have a playground at Greeley Park. My kids, my youngest is 3. I'm sorry, 6. My oldest is 15. That playground was fine. So if we indeed do this legacy playground at Greeley Park, they're proposing to rip out the current playground, which I consider an antique playground, it's a perfectly serviceable playground. And it doesn't make economic sense to me to rip out a serviceable, but I sense that it wouldn't, you kind of pay attention to the numbers.
Yeah.
To rip out a serviceable playground and place it somewhere else, rather than to place it in the place that does not currently have a playground.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that
You'd
doesn't
end
make
up having
sense
2
to me.
playgrounds when you're done instead of 1.
Well, no,
No, they would do that.
they
No, what
would
I'm saying
rip
is
out-
if they just put the legacy somewhere else,
Oh, right.
then you leave the one that's there is
Then
already
you
there.
leave the serviceable
That's for,
playground.
it comes for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
It comes for free.
And I will say that I appreciate all the fundraising that legacy group did. I don't want to.
Question, do you feel, many, many years ago, I know that the Board of Public Works reported directly to the Board of Aldermen. Do you envision that ever happening again?
It'd be a major charter change.
It would be.
It makes sense to me that the Board of Public Works is, I've actually read the charter, and it's an interesting document. It's hard to tell whether it was written in whatever the 1700s or the 1800s, whether it's written more modern, the language changes. But because the mayor is the chief executive and needs to have the machinery of the government happen quickly, it makes sense that the mayor is, by charter, the chairman of the Board of Public Works, and the Board of Public Works is an autonomous organization that can do what it needs to do to get things going. That totally makes sense. I get that. But it also makes sense that the Finance Committee on the Board of Aldermen is the means by which the Board of Aldermen has to provide a balance, or a check, actually, on the Board of Public Works, so that whenever they want to do something, if it's not in the budget line item or needs contract, has to go through the Finance Committee.
Right.
That's the opportunity for the Board of Aldermen to say, we need more information or we're not going to write the check.
Has that
Right.
been happening on a regular basis? I knew the answer to that question. I just thought I would
I'll
ask.
paraphrase David Dean by saying not one single item has come through in the past 2 years that has been rejected on the current Finance Committee.
Right, I mean, that's my sense, is anything over $10,000 is supposed to go through the Finance
Finance
Committee.
Committee, yeah.
Which it certainly should, and I was talking to people, it's very interesting that you say, about the mayor as the chief executive, and I had someone who I respect their opinion an awful lot, who knows a lot about government. They said, if someone on the Board of Aldermen was really smart, they would come up with a charter change, and I am looking at you.
Right. You don't need a charter change.
That
It's fine.
perhaps, that rather than have the mayor be the chair, that we add an extra individual,
And have it be like a liaison she is like to the Board of Aldermen.
have an extra individual who is a commissioner, so rather than 4 commissioners, 5 commissioners, and the board themselves, like
Elect
the
the
Board of Aldermen, they elect their chair.
Right.
And I thought that was a really interesting idea. So the mayor would be an attendee, similar to a liaison,
Right.
but in a charter change could allow another commissioner, and then the commissioners themselves would come up with a chair.
It could.
Similar
it could,
to-
We
but
might
I
be breaking
still,
new ground here.
still, but
was my-
principle, things would work best if it is as the way it is, and everything. It's only when power can be abused that we think of ways to check the abuse of the power, or the perception that power abuse. Then we want to do that. But if under normal operation, when everybody's just cruising along and turning the wheels and getting things done, it's set up nicely. So rather than change the charter to correct a perceived problem, why not just elect new aldermen and new commissioners like we did?
No, correct.
And then the problem goes away.
But if you do have what we currently
simpler.
have, it's essentially impossible to correct what we have at the Board of Public Works.
Right. It's a difficult,
That's-
difficult situation presently.
But now we'll see how
Commission
3 to
happens,
2 goes.
But, hey, things change, and 2 years is not that far away.
Yeah, so you may end up with a mayor who just is like a benevolent whatever and does nothing but
That's right.
you know, makes the sky shine even during the middle of a rainstorm. And
Well,
like the way to-
segueing into a perfect statement there about being the chairman of the Board of Public Works. If you were nominated, would you accept the position of president of the board of Alderman? If it was presented to
of
you?
course, but that's not going to happen. No. It's like, hey, would you like to, if I give you $100, are you going to take it? Of course you would. But the reality is, the goal isn't just to get 8 votes to have a new board president. That is a goal for some people, and I would support that goal. It would be great if we had 10 votes or even 12 votes for the board president, because then that really shows a little more unity moving forward. And there are more people on that board who know David Dean very well. There are a lot, let's say not more, let's just say a lot of people on that board know David Dean very well, to the point where they trust him. So trust is something that you earn over a long period of time.
Right.
And David Dean has earned that trust. I have only been on the board for 2 years. So I think in with regards to immediately having the command, the authority or respect of his peers, David Dean's the way to go.
Okay. Oh. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Go ahead, yes, Commissioner.
I would, and I think it's interesting. My phone was ringing off the hook after the last Board of Aldermen meeting regarding the police contract. There were people who were disgusted. They were not disgusted with Alderman Moriarty's vote because the first time the contract was up, he voted against it for whatever reason. There are people that thought, compared to the other contracts, the police was less generous, but regardless, no one ever doubted why you voted, how you voted. That you looked at it and that was your gut reaction. And
Well,
he was-
analysis as opposed to gut reaction, but I understand what you're saying.
he was the only individual who voted against it.
2 weeks ago.
Correct. And then several people flipped their vote. Now, I'm going to say this, I'm going to go out on a limb. The mayor likes to call people over the phone. I sent an email, I don't want to be called over the phone. Public business should be done in public. Several people flipped their votes. They're not unintelligent people. I think they did it because their arms were twisted. And people were very disgusted over that. The only individual they weren't disgusted with over the vote was with
that's
Alderman
good to hear.
because you
It
know
was consistent at least. Yeah.
it was
and there
consistency,
was no appearance of-
I think a lot of people respect the fact that they don't think you're going to get a phone call and flip your vote.
Right.
And I think and I think that's going to get the drumbeat. We need a new president. And David Dean was the top vote getter. Respect from both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
I have heard nothing but respect for David Dean. And I think that the city will be in very good hands I believe he will be the next board
Yeah,
president.
good chance.
What are the major topics coming up before the Board of Aldermen next year?
It's always the same stuff. It's parking,
Parking, okay.
parking, and parking meters. Let me tell you, we talked about this Tuesday, and there were a lot of people that were complaining about the parking meters on Quincy Street.
Yes. Yep.
And campaigning, let me tell you, no one likes those parking meters. I listened to some of the people on the Downtown Improvements Committee, and in particular Cy Mahfouz, and I think he's on the committee, and John Koutsas, who had a persuasive reason for why we want parking meters on Main Street, and I can understand the analysis. As an engineer, I can put aside I hate meters, and see what the purpose of it is on Main Street. That type of thing I can buy into. But the fact that they're on Quincy Street makes no sense. So, but the perception goes a long way. as far as the economy and Main Street and people going down the Main Street not going, whether or not it's anyway, that's a topic that will probably get revised.
Okay. Well, I think
I will say I got a love letter today from the city of Nashua, and my tax bill went up about $400. And I got calls from people. There was no rhyme nor reason. A woman up the street, $300 her tax bill went down. Someone who lives near the landfill, her assessment went down $11,000 and her tax bill went up 200 something. So I'm hoping that you know that these numbers guys, including hopefully Mr. Shodem and Alderman Moriarty here, there seems to be no rhyme nor reason that doesn't make sense to me. That if nothing's being done to people's properties and there's such a discrepancy.
I'm sure that's something that will be.
I'm sure you'll be hearing about it.
Officially not in my authority, but I'll run it down and find out who's the person that's in charge.
No, but every time people vote on things that increase the tax
now
rate.
the spending's a different thing. Yeah.
Well, spending has
that
has an impact on taxes.
It absolutely does. You have to pay for it
on
somehow.
Quincy Street is going to reduce the tax rate.
What?
I don't think the parking meters on Quincy Street is going to reduce the tax rate. So,
no.
But anyway, listen. I think our time is up. I just want to thank you both for taking the time out of your busy schedules, and I'm sure you have a little jet lag there. But I appreciate you coming and taking some time and letting the citizens of Nashua know how you feel, and hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's Michael.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.